Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Shaun in Science. I'm Shaun and I'm in Science. So I'm just gonna try and go through some of the questions that people
Yes,
have collated.
okay.
So we've got
Do I get multiple choice?
No,
Yeah.
unfortunately not.
Okay.
So the first one, what do scientists need to have to be good? Just to be good, not to be like excellent yet, but to be good.
To be good? Well, you've obviously got to be technically proficient, and you have to be critical and analytical. You've got to be able. You've got to be able to ask yourself, is this true? Have I done everything here possible to be sure that what I'm interpreting is true, rather than just the result I want because it's my boss's hypothesis?
Yeah.
That's very tough.
Yeah.
Most people can't do that. Seriously, they can't. They come and they produce the result that they want, or the boss wants.
Yeah,
And it is always a tension, because we are always trying to get the perfect result. You want things to look aesthetically beautiful.
To fit into the story.
Yeah, and to fit. Yeah, but actually, that was also one of the important things I learned from my undergraduate project. And somebody came up with a result in the lab that was the opposite of what they expected, and they were a bit down. And Tony, the PI, said, "Oh, but the best results are the ones that you don't expect, because you have to think again."
Yeah.
Now, it's a little bit of a cliche sometimes. Those results really are quite gutting, and sometimes it does just mean you've got to go back and do it again properly.
Yeah.
But the point is, sometimes you get results that clearly falsify your ideas, and that's a challenge, and it can open up something much more interesting. But you have to be open to that. If you're not open to that, then you'll miss that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's a skill that I'm definitely still trying to develop, because you generate data, and once you already, like, at the moment we're working on a big project, and we already have data that we have, and obviously we have our replicates, and we see that it's the story fits. But it's having that thing to, okay, when you have unexpected data, to really question it and not just be like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
it's about really doing. I think it's quite difficult as well, trying to ask yourself that question when it goes against the current hypothesis that you have, right? Because it's comfortable to just be like, okay, yeah, this is the story we have, and then just be streamlined in that, and be like, okay, this is just what I need to do to fit this story.
And absolutely at your stage, that's right. It really is something that becomes absolutely crucial at the PI level. I think what's important as a student or as a postdoc is that you put those things on the table for discussion in lab meetings or with the PI. But often you won't have that experience to be able to judge whether, well, this is actually something that's just a red herring, or we don't really need to worry about. As opposed to, well, this is something really serious, or it could well be something that is just, it's a technical issue. So that's something that comes with being a PI. But when you're a PI, the advantage you have is that you're one step removed from the experiment. It's no longer actually your experiment. Somebody, right? So you're and that you have to then, as a PI, you have to challenge the postdoc or the student who's bringing you the result. And the thing that is difficult then is you have to challenge them most when it's the result that you want. Because they won't be able to do that because they're coming giving you what, you know, or usually they won't. So you have to be able to take a step back and say, well, look, you know, have you done everything here, and what more do we need to do?
Cool. All right. What challenges have you faced during your career?
What challenges? Well, not many, you know. White Anglo-Saxon male, went to Oxford. did come from a pretty normal background. I didn't go to a private school, but otherwise, you know.
That's the truth.
That's the truth, you know.
To be fair, you are pretty woke, Austin. For you.
I don't know what that means.
It means that
my daughter says that, but I don't know what it means.
It means that you acknowledge like the privilege. I don't want to put it in that sense, but the fact that you're able to identify that means that your work, you're able to see it.
Yeah, well, yeah, but you see, I always actually felt for a long time a kind of outsider to that community, but you know, now I have to accept I've become very middle class. It's just I can't, you know. Well, it's, you know, it just is, yeah.
What is your vision for stem cell research? Now, these are questions that people around the issues are asking, so you know they're trying to pick your brains. What is your vision for stem cell research?
I don't have a vision for stem cell research anymore because I'm not an institute director, so I'm going off to do a different thing.
Oh yes.
So you know, this vision thing actually gets on my wick a bit because you know, I just don't think science really works like that. These are things that people say retrospectively that you know so and so had a vision, but you know we have, of course I have ideas about where my own research would go, but I wouldn't call it a vision. I always feel very uncomfortable running grants. You have to write a vision statement. I just don't think it's the right word. It's too pretentious, you know.
Yeah.
So I haven't really answered your question because it's.
You don't got one, people. Yeah. What are the biggest changes that have improved equality and diversity in science, from your perspective? I mean,
you're talking about the people or the science itself, or
let's hit both.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure what it is you think is improved. Diversity is greater than it was in the UK at the postdoc and PI level, and especially in terms of European representation. You know, there are still woefully few scientists of your pigmentation. I think the situation for women is really improving now. In the last, probably the last 5 years, it really has changed. I think now it's almost inevitable that it seems to me that the glass ceiling people talked about is I think it really is gone in a scientific academic career. Possibly not at more administrative levels, but he wants to be there anyway. And that it's just going to be a matter of time. I mean, there's still a bit of catching up to do, but of course there will always be some differences because of the fact that women generally have career breaks, and that can be is a significant disadvantage in a research career. But it's a more even playing field than it was, and it's, it used to be, when I was a postdoc, it was just generally accepted. You didn't hire women postdocs because they would go off and have kids, and that would but the thing is, that was actually honestly, this is what people would say. Even when I first became a group leader, that was like the first thing. Don't hire a woman of a certain age if she's married, because they'll go off and have a baby, and that will ruin your grant. So it's a rational decision. Your grant would be killed by that, because also the research councils, the funders at that time, made no kind of provision. So that was a real serious impediment.
Oh.
So those things did get changed in the 90s, and so it's come a long way. It's still, I think, very challenging for a woman to have kids and maintain a scientific career. But there is more support now, and it is far more achievable than it was. What we do to get a more mixed background of people in research, that's a bit more challenging, because that comes back to the school education, I think, really, because it's too late by the time kids are applying for university, or certainly for anything post-university. So, I mean, this is where in principle things like outreach that we're all encouraged to do, but I guess this is a type of outreach, they're very worthy. What is less clear to me is whether we really achieve that much, though, by doing it, and to what extent we're really just speaking to the people who would already be interested anyway. I think it's quite hard to measure, but
I think it could also be something that it's, for us to see the effect of it will still take a while, because it might also be a generation thing, right? So for me, when it comes to my personal experience as a scientist, when I first came to the Gleason, we're in the Gleason at first, and in that building I think I was the only black female scientist, and I always say it's hard for you to, yes, I know I want to develop my career in research, but if you don't see someone who is like at PI level that you can identify with, it's difficult for you to feel that push. Obviously there needs to be this self-motivation and all that kind of stuff, but I think it might be a generational thing, because it might take a few years for you to start seeing those, and then the children who are then seeing these as role models would then be more inspired. So I think, because as you said, a few years back there was already this stigma or this against females even being in science. I think it's a gradual change that we might not see directly right now, but hopefully in a few years there will be more representation. And I think especially in prestigious institutions such as Cambridge and Oxford, because that's always been one of my pet peeves, right? Because you talk about Cambridge and Oxford, top in the league tables, and you would expect that they should be representing all the intellect from a different background. And it's like, no, you're not. You're really not doing that, because you're not having a good diversity of representation of people from different backgrounds or different colours or ethnicities, for you to say that, okay, yes, we're tapping into all the bright minds in the world. And that's something I'm really passionate about, and this is why I started this thing of like, okay, you can be whatever colour or background you are and still get into places like that. And I identified that it might take a while. It's not something that's going to be so direct and like a quick fix, but hopefully as we are all making the effort to outreach and engage and receive this change.
No, I think it's absolutely right. The role models, although it's a kind of, again, it's one of these terms you feel a bit uncomfortable with, but I absolutely agree. It's important. You want to see examples of people who you can identify with, who you can feel are sort of the same as you, and if you don't see them there, then you do think, well, I don't really belong there. I don't really belong there because there aren't working class people there, or there aren't women there, or there aren't black people there. But the issue is still, I mean, I think around in our field, can I think of a black PI?
I haven't seen one.
I don't think so. I have a friend from when I was a postdoc who's Malaysian, who's dark, can be very dark when he goes back to Malaysia, but and I've known him since I was a postdoc, and he's still one of very few, very few who would be a professor, of pigment in biological sciences. So you don't even have those role models. Whereas I think for women in science, at least in some areas, developmental biology in particular, there were some very impressive women. I mean, there are, but there were, even when I was a PhD student or a postdoc, so that was a kind of platform, if you like, that there was that could be built on. I think it seems to be harder for the ethnic diversity.
Yeah.